right, welcome back to this episode of the Comics Multiverse. Today we're going to be talking with a creator who I've, tried to hook up for an interview before when he was kickstarting his webcomic collectors, but he's getting ready to start another one. So it's for a different project. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his webcomic because it's such a funny comic, and I can identify with it on so many levels. But let me bring in Eddie. I'm going to screw up his name again, Eddie DeAngelini, and he can tell me how bad I messed up his name.
You didn't. You
I
did good.
didn't.
No.
Oh, right.
No.
Sorry.
And thank you.
So, well, you're welcome, and thank you for taking time out of your day to you know chat. So before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, both as a comic book creator and as a creator?
All right. Well, I am the writer, artist of a comic strip called Collectors, which is basically all about, loosely based on my own life and my marriage and where the two collide and where the comedy comes. And beyond that, I don't know if you know this as well, but my wife and I actually been co-owner of a comic book shop for the past 10 years. It's recently closed down last year, but she and I are actually working at the moment right now to reopen it this year.
Nice. So, tell me a little bit about your, comics journey. When did you start reading? When did do you remember maybe the first book you read?
I do actually. What kind of got me started was when I was very little, home from school, sick. My dad always used to stop off at local convenience store and grab some comics off the spinner rack to bring home to kind of occupy me and keep me busy while I was sick. And that just it all spiraled from there.
Hmm. And do you remember maybe what's the first one you remember him bringing you?
I absolutely do, because Spider-Man was the only comic character that he recognized. And so if any had Spider-Man on it, he would just grab that and bring it home. So I remember him bringing home, Spider-Man and Marvel Team Up or any of the titles this was back in the 70s, a long time ago. Those were the titles that were running at the time, and that's what he saw and that's what he grabbed. So that kind of just started a love of comics and actually a love of drawing too, because I had the comics and I would see the drawings and the characters, and that just made me want to draw them as well. So I would get paper and pencil and draw what I saw in the comics. And so the two kind of spawned from at the same time way back when.
And so I guess that kind of led into your collectors. Am I correct?
Sort of, yes. When I got into high school and a bit after in my 20s, I kind of just got away from comics. I thought, oh, that's kid stuff. I want to do adult stuff and be an adult. And I stopped collecting and stopped reading comics, and I stopped drawing even. And I wish I would have kept it both, but because it was a couple decades later, I ended up coming right back to both. And I actually started my comic strip a bit later in life, and to my detriment, I think. I wish I would have had the foresight to start earlier and maybe be further along. But I started well after my 20s and my 30s. I started my comic strip, so I came to it late, and I came back to comics as well, and I came back to collecting. As you can see, they're all over, and behind me over here are all the vintage glass tumblers of DC and Marvel characters all over them. So I thought I was done with comics and drawing, but apparently comics and drawing were not done with me.
So, I mean, before we get into the Kickstarter that you're going to be launching, am I right, in the next couple weeks?
May 28th it launches. The pre-launch page is already up, so people can go and follow it right now, actually. Quickest way they can get to it is collectorsonkickstarter.com.
And I know this isn't the project of the your collected cartoons. What is the project?
It's for an enamel pin, and I've done other enamel pins of my art before, and I use a lot of them as Kickstarter rewards when I launch my books. But this particular pin kind of is a little more important to me. The last couple books I did, I made a logo that basically says and lets everybody know that this book is 100% AI free, always human made. And I took that logo and I thought, I want to make an enamel pin out of this to add to the other enamel pins I've done of my other art and designs and things. And I said it's something that's important to me because I really think that this whole stance that everyone is taking with AI in the creative community, I really, really take it very seriously because I'm of the position that art is something that is uniquely human. It is a uniquely human expression of our loves, our fears, our joys, our hopes, everything that makes us us. And that is something that machines just can't replicate. And I fear a future where artists give up and machines are making all of our art, and we are left with watered down, regurgitated art that is just garbage. There's nothing innovative to it. So I really, and people say all the time, well, AI is here to stay. You can't get rid of it. You're not going to change that. I don't want to. That's not my stance. My stance is, as a creator, I take the pledge that my work will always be 100% AI free and always human made. And I want other artists to take that stand as well. Just like when you go to a market and you buy food, things are always labeled of, sugar free, this, that, whatever, let you know that what you're getting is devoid or includes whatever it is you want. Just same with art. I see those also being labeled the same way, letting people know this art, this movie, this book, this whatever is 100% AI free. And I would like to have that be to coexist alongside with whatever AI brings, so people know that they can choose this movie, they can choose this book, that comic, that whatever, because they know that a human made it from beginning to end.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you on all that. And whenever I see the AI generated photos on Facebook, you, I automatically want to play circle the things that are wrong with the right.
Sure.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta count how many fingers they have, how many.
Yep. And it's going to get better in time, that eventually maybe that's going to be corrected, but it can't change the fact that the work that is output is going to be soulless. There was no human behind that telling their unique story to make this art. That it was basically a soulless creation that was just put together as a collage of all the other art that has existed, just mashed it all together to create this new thing, but it's not new. And when it comes to art, if you look at anything, any medium, whether it's movies, comics, books, whatever, there's always periods every so often, every few decades, where there's just huge innovation because there are just a small group of artists that say, we're going to push things to the next level. We're going to make this bigger and better and start maybe even a whole new genre. And that's something that machines aren't ever going to be able to do. The machine is never going to be able to innovate. It's only going to regurgitate what has come before.
Yeah. And I know that there's been news stories already of AI being used in some comic books, and one of the companies had some variant covers that were, I guess, AI generated it, but they, pulled them. So I mean, it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. And I think that it's inevitable, like you said, that it is going to come, but the consumers are going to vote with their pocketbook. And I have hope that there's going to be a large percentage of the readership of comics that are not going to want AI. There's going to be some,
Mhm.
maybe they're going to buy it because they don't care. They just want the latest Batman story or whatever. But I think that there's going to be a large percentage of those who want real comics made by real people, because a lot of really the big comic book fans, the hardcore fans, they don't just collect comics and follow comics. They follow the creators that make those comics. They are the rock stars to us. And I'm sorry, but a computer is never going to be that rock star. It's never going to replace that. You know, I'm sure you know plenty of people that are into comics that talk about their favorite writers or their favorite artists, and they follow anything that they put out. You're not going to get, you can't replicate that kind of devotion from fans from a machine.
I follow GPG chat.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's going to be some areas where whatever art form is going to be put out, maybe created completely by AI, that a majority of the consumerism out there, consumer public out there, is not going to care. They just want to be entertained. But there's going to be those as well that do care about the art that they're consuming. And they
Mhm.
want to not only be connected to the art, but they want to be connected to the artist that created it as well. At least
And
I
I
hope
know that
so.
you,
I hope so.
and I know that you're still in the pre-launch phase of the Kickstarter as we talk about this. But have you had any feedback from, your pre-launch page or anything like that from people or other
Yeah, I've
creators?
gotten yes, I've gotten messages not just from other creators that I know, but also just you know, readers of comics that appreciate real art that have thanked me for the messages I put out there regarding AI art. And I hate to even call it AI art. Basically, it's AI generated images. You know, I
Mhm.
try to correct people on that, but it's just easier to say AI art. But yeah, there are. I've gotten a number of messages of people thanking me for the message I'm putting out there, and basically telling them, you know, if you back my Kickstarter, wear that enamel pin with pride. Wear it to the conventions. Wear it to, if you're a creator, wear it at your table. Let the people that come to your table know that the art that you created is all done by you by hand.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
if you are a fan, wear that pin at conventions and go up to the tables of the creators that you admire, whose work you admire, and let them know, hey, check out my pin. I appreciate the work that you put into this. I appreciate you as the creator as well.
Now I know that no Kickstarter is probably ever simple. I don't know because I've never run one, but I talk to a lot of people who do, and but you have the is there what are you going to be offering for people to support the project? Are there different well, I would assume it's going to be the pin itself.
Sure. There is the pin itself, but because I've been doing this for a while and I've ran a few other Kickstarters and I've got a lot of inventory of my work, I've got lots of things that I'm offering as a reward. I've got other enamel pins that I've created that I routinely use on some of my Kickstarters. I have my books. If you come to my Kickstarter because you like the message and you like the pin, but you're not familiar with me as a creator, we've got tiers on there where you can sample one or two of my books, or if you like it already and you don't have any, you can get the whole collection of my in stock inventory of books along with the pins. So I always have a lot of stuff. um, I always try to make every tier have value. I want people to come to my Kickstarter and think, oh wow, I mean, this is even better deal than what he has on his own website. So
Mhm.
every tier has got something that I think will be of interest to somebody. And if not, hey, just get the pin and, like I said, wear it proudly.
So let's kind of talk about your other work. Is what I mean. Let's talk about collectors because I love I love reading reading it, and I can identify with a lot of that you are putting out there through that. Kind of give us, a overview and rundown of what that is, and
Collectors is a weekly webcomic. It started as a webcomic bit over 10 years ago. Still runs as a weekly webcomic, but also it's available in now 8 print volumes. And it basically, like I said, is loosely based on myself and my wife and our marriage and my comic book collecting and all the nerdy stuff she puts up with me. And I tell people it's not necessarily slice of life. I use us as the basis for the characters and the premise. And then I kind of fictionalize it from there,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of stuff in there that you think, oh my God, if you guys are really doing that, how are you not divorced? So it's a fictionalized account about a comic book collector who is married and his wife that has to put up with his hobby.
And you said most of it is kind of based on real life, but may kind of take it to the extreme.
Yeah, it starts
Is
with a
there
little
is
kernel, a little nugget of truth, and then it goes from there. And it's done,
has
if any of you are old enough, it's done in the style of the old Sunday funnies in the newspaper. Very much has that kind of feel, that kind of look. And each week when you read the new comic strip, it's always a one and done joke. And then, one and done, on to the next. So just like the Sunday funnies.
and I heard correctly that you have 8 volumes collected. Is that correct? So you must have been doing it for.
Yeah, it's actually 7. I usually every year will put out an annual,
Okay.
which collects all the comic strips that were out the previous year online, along with new material in the book that was never online. I usually, at each book, I try to include like a 4 to 5 page original story, and usually those stories are completely true. I recount the story of, in one of them, I think in issue number 5, I recount the story of how I did a convention in Vegas, and I was invited by a fan of my comic strip to come stay at his place so I don't have to pay for a hotel. I never met the guy. And I said yes because, hey, hotels for the conventions are expensive. And come to find out, I had no idea. He's got one room in his house that is filled from ceiling, from floor to ceiling on every side, tanks full of snakes. He just had like tons and dozens and dozens and dozens of different snakes. So thankfully, I'm not squeamish about snakes, but if I were, that could, But anyway, that stories like that, or some other stories, like the last issue was original story was about me trying to thinking I'm a real life superhero, trying to stop what I thought was a car thief, but wasn't quite. So you get a lot of original material in each one along with the strips. So yes, I put out actually 7 annuals, but I say 8 because the first 3 annuals from way back when have finally, in the last year or two, finally completely sold out. So one of my last Kickstarters, I did a compilation of all 3 books in a 200-page trade paperback. So which I label as volume 1. So hopefully, 4, 5, and 6 will eventually sell out, and I'll do another trade paperback, and that'll be volume 2.
Nice. Now, having experience with Kickstarter, what are what how has it changed since you've been started doing, and what are you? I'm sure you take that past experience and kind of account for it when you start to get another one in the works. Um, what are you are you expecting anything, this time, or, this, I know it's a different type of project than you
Yeah,
probably kickstarted before.
yeah, yeah. So I don't really know quite what to expect on this one because it's not a book. I'm doing a Kickstarter for a completely different thing, the enamel pin, but it's a small Kickstarter. Instead of going the full 4 weeks, it's only going 3 weeks. The goal is actually much lower than what my goals usually are for the book, because just to do a run of enamel pins, you don't need as much to do a whole print run of a book, obviously. So I don't know what to expect, but also this one is, I think, going to be a little bit of an easier Kickstarter, hopefully, to complete and be successful with. As far as what I've seen with Kickstarter from the very beginning, when I ran my first one back in, was it 2014 compared to now, I have to really commend Kickstarter because they have really every year rolled out more and more improvements and really upped their game for creators every year. So while I'm seeing Kickstarter get better and better every year, every time I do a new one, it's social media every year when I do a Kickstarter that I see getting worse and worse returns from. So Kickstarter, yay. Social media, boo.
Yeah.
And I think that now is a time, I think, for a lot of creators like myself who are getting just drowned out by the algorithms and by scammers and spammers on social media. I think it's time for us to look for our audience to drive to Kickstarter in other places. We got to have our email newsletter lists really, up to par, or our Substacks or Patreons or anything else that we're using. We really got to really put more focus on those things because social media ain't it.
Yeah, I mean, that's as working with Comic Watch, we're kind of trying to figure out how we can maintain, because ad revenue is not what it is, has been, and
So my pain.
it's yes, I trust me, I know we know your pain.
And you watch your outreach to your audience just dropping as time goes on. So yeah, but there's other areas that we could be focusing on. There's other things that we could be doing. So there is hope.
So yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to make it through this law, even if we kind of have to go down to like a bare bones. I mean, I would rather break even on a site than and still be able to do stuff like this, and then I'm not looking to make a profit.
Yeah.
But would you like to play 5 questions?
Sure. Why not?
Okay.
I hope I have 5 answers.
Before we do that, I have a question about. I look at a lot of Kickstarter. So don't they have a policy against AI, or are they
Sort of.
in the process of?
They don't have a policy that says that you cannot use AI for a project that you are kickstarting. They have a policy that says if you are using AI in any sense, you have to say so. You have to be upfront and make sure that your audience, the people backing you, make sure that they know.
Okay.
If you try to sneak it in, that's where they have a problem.
Yeah, I knew it was something like that. And that's one of the things when I'm going through and when I'm selecting projects to spotlight, then it's like you got to watch out for AI. You got to watch out for shoot. Why can I the comic the idiots
Comicsgate.
Yes, Comicsgate. Yes, because that's my biggest fear is accidentally putting something up there and then because
Yeah. Well, with Comicsgate though, it's a little easier because those idiots just kind of up and announce themselves wherever they go.
Yeah, they do.
It's kind of hard to not know who they are.
It's mostly on Indiegogo too. So
exactly, yeah.
But anyway, let's talk about funner things then. So, question number 1. Who are your top 5 creative influences?
Number 1, my wife. Not that she's a creator in the sense of making comics, but because she's kind of like the person behind the person, and she's always there to support me and let me know that I'm doing okay and when I'm not doing okay. Other creators, I really, really kind of I guess almost like a throwaway answer, because this is something that everybody would say, Jack Kirby, but not so much because of his art, which I love. I absolutely love his work. But his output is just utterly amazing. And I would love to be able to, in my lifetime, have an output that is just a tenth of his. And that's even, more than what most people do. So Jack Kirby.
Okay.
Let's see. I mean, Waterston, of course, because Calvin and Hobbes is just a classic strip, and anyone who can just hit that level of quality all the time, every time, is just absolutely amazing to me. That's 3. Who else? Gosh. And this is a tough one to come up with, because when people say, well, who influenced your comic strip? I kind of tell them, you know what? I don't know. It's just a mishmash of everything in my life. I can't point to any particular people, but there are people whose work that I absolutely love. 2 other classic creators that I look up to as far as their art and thinking, these guys are masters, and I would love to be able to do even like a tiny fraction of what they can do. Steve Ditko and John Romita Sr. They are 2 people whose work, and I'm falling towards, the classic oldies stuff. And it's not to say that I don't like any new artists. I just think that the newer guys are on the shoulder of giants, and there's a reason why. So that's why I always seem to default to them. So that was nice. 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. Top 5 cartoon strips. I'm going to assume Calvin and Hobbes, because you already mentioned
Calvin and Hobbes. Far Side is another one, because I mean, just the not just the quality, but just the way out humor of that is utterly amazing. Bloom County, of course, is a classic as well. I also want to say Doonesbury, but when I say Doonesbury, I think a lot of earlier stuff rather than some of the later stuff. Mainly because the quality and the work and everything about the early stuff just seemed much more relevant. I remember reading Doonesbury in the 80s when he used to skewer the Reagan administration. And I was a kid. I didn't get it. I didn't understand. But when I went back 10, 15 years later, and I was like, okay, I get it now. That's 4. The 5th one is like a total outlier, because it's not actually really a comic strip, but it's kind of like of a weird version mashup of a comic strip that is just, I don't know how to describe it. I'm sure you're familiar with Garfield Without Garfield. Oh, I think you froze on me. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you froze up on me. So what I said was, I don't know if you're familiar with Garfield Without Garfield. Nope. I'm still here, but you're freezing up on me.
Is that better?
There you go. Yes. Okay.
That's why I don't record live.
We're cutting all that out. All right.
Yeah, depending on how motivated I am to actually do the post work.
Well, the last one, I don't know if you're familiar with comic strip Garfield Without Garfield.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It's not a real comic strip. It's just what somebody did to an existing comic strip, but it takes on a whole different level of meaning, of literally of just complete desperation and isolation for poor John. And it cracks me up. I love it.
Okay. Question number 3. I'm going to strand you on a desert island, and you can only take 5 things to read. But since I'm a nice guy, you can take complete runs if you want.
Okay, so I can say that again. I can take 5 what?
Complete runs.
Oh, complete
5
comic book
things
runs.
to read.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. 5 complete comic book runs.
if you want,
Uh,
or they can be, collected. Like
I can't take like a boat or food or
no,
anything.
no, no.
Okay. All right. 5 complete runs. Uh, complete complete run. Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. of Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay,
We'll do a complete Frank Miller run of Daredevil. Complete Jack Kirby Stan Lee run on Fantastic Four. Goodness, what else? Uh, I might be stumped. Um, I'm staring around my room here. See what comics I can see.
you're not the
Let's
first
see.
one to do
Oh,
that.
well, complete John Byrne X-Men run. So that's 4. Um, and then one more. Let's see. I'm going to do a total outlier here that's not even me. Um, we'll do a complete run of Silver Age Green Lantern when Gil Kane was on the series.
Okay,
No one's going to
nice.
suspect that I said that.
All right, question number 4. One of the major companies, pick your favorite one, or come to you and let you say, we're going to let you do a character of your choice or license property of your choice. You can do anything you want with it. What are you choosing?
Oh, easy, simple. I am introducing characters from my comic strip, Eddie and Kristen, into the Marvel universe. Do I make them
Nice.
Avengers or do I make them X-Men? I don't know. Tune in. You have to find out.
Nice. I would read that. Would that be like what the collectors?
Yeah. I got to branch out because I did do a variant cover for Archie Comics last
Mhm.
year for their Halloween one-shot, where the cover is basically me, my wife, and Archie on the cover. When I say me and my wife, I mean our comic strip versions of us with Archie. So, hey, if I could do the same thing at Marvel, I would totally do it.
Nice. So, question 5. What is aside from the whole AI thing? Um, what is your take on the comics industry? Currently, and where do you? I mean, you said that you've owned a store. You are reopening the store. I mean, what's your take on the um, industry as a whole? I guess.
Okay, that's a big question. This is probably going to take about an hour or so. Uh, I really do think that while parts of the industry, and when I say industry, I'm talking about the major publishers, Marvel, DC, Image, maybe a few of the smaller independent ones as well, not necessarily self-published creators like myself, but talking about the large pie of the industry. There is a lot of the industry that I believe that is in flux, and it's kind of a lot of retailers and other creators are kind of waiting to see where things are going to fall and land. But overall, it's been my experience, and it's been the experience actually of the statistics as well, regardless of what some retailers might grumble and groan about, that the industry overall is doing pretty well. It's not perfect, but it's doing all right. And while sales for some of the big titles at Marvel and DC might not be as great as we want them to be, there are other aspects of the industry that's doing really, really fantastic. YA, young adult stuff, is doing great. I mean, it's huge. And Marvel and DC are actually really smart now about venturing into those areas with some of their characters. And that part of Marvel and DC they're seeing is doing quite well. So the industry is in flux. The old models of how things have been done aren't quite working now in 2024, and they need to change. The whole idea of the Wednesday Warrior, the fan that comes in every Wednesday and buys their floppy single issues, is kind of slowly dying and going away. The graphic novel trade paperback market has been growing steadily. So the way people read is changing. And the way people read online is changing, obviously. There's a lot of people going online and reading stuff, but also the way people read print material is changing. There's people that just don't have the patience or the time to come in every week and buy their single issues. They go straight to trade paperback. Every time a new trade paperback of the series they like comes out, they'll buy it, and those will do well. Those are what you see in the bookstores, not just the comic shops. So that market is growing, and it has been growing. And we're going to see things change. The problem, I think, is that a lot of the big publishers are resistant to that change, rather than looking ahead and seeing that things are kind of going in this opposite direction. Maybe we should start structuring our business to meet the industry at that point, rather than be dragged kicking, screaming to it. So things have to change on the publisher side to match what is kind of happening in the industry as a whole, as far as how people want to consume their comics. Whether they can do it, whether they choose to do it, remains to be seen. But overall, the industry is doing okay. It's doing well. It is in flux, and things are going to look quite different in another 5-10 years than how it does now. But there's always going to be comics. They're not going to go away.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
So, are you reading anything now, watching anything that you would recommend, or are particularly enjoying?
I just last night finished one of Ed Brubaker's books that I really, really enjoyed. And this goes to what I was just saying about how the industry is changing. Ed Brubaker used to be the type of creator that was working on monthly books that was coming out, every week in your shop. And he and Sean Phillips, who for the longest time have been doing their series for, Criminal, Fade Out, so and so, have completely changed their creative model to where they are only doing those nice hardcover graphic novels and putting those out every few months. That's their business model now. And they've kind of left that whole world of, the weekly floppies behind. So the book I just finished from his, and I apologize if I am messing up the title, but it's something to the effect of Where the Body Lay, or Where the Body Was Found. And it's one of his crime noir books, and it was utterly fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend that. If I messed up the title and you can't find the book, if you're watching this, I apologize.
Okay. So do you want to, kind of give a last kind of a pitch for the Kickstarter, and where people
Absolutely.
can find you and your stuff on
Absolutely.
the webs?
So, So for my comic strip, you can read the new weekly comic strips every week on Wednesdays over at collectorscomic.com. And also there on the website is a link to all my socials, so you can follow me on whatever social platform that you prefer. I'm pretty much very active on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. I don't know how few people feel about Twitter, which is now X, but I kind of just decided I'm out of that world. I no longer belong there, so I'm not there anymore. But you can find me on all those others. So find the comic strip every week at collectorscomic.com. And the Kickstarter, which the pre-launch page is up now, depending on when this interview is going to go up. But as of right now, it is live, the pre-launch page. at collectorsonkickstarter.com, and then the Kickstarter launches on May 28th.
Nice. Well, it was a pleasure to finally get to talk to you. And next time that you are, doing a campaign for maybe the next volume of Collectors, I'd like to, have you back on and catch up and see how this went and see where, we can see where things are with, the industry, AI, and
Oh, absolutely.
stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Or
Yeah.
are you going to be doing any shows? Or do you this year?
I let's see, what do I have lined up? I don't have anything lined up right away. I've got a couple so far, unless anything changes. The two that I have are going to be towards the end of the year. I do a small show in Utah called Wasatch Comic Con, and that's in November. It's a smaller show, but it's put on by retailers that their shop is in a comic shop is in a mall, and they actually hold the convention inside the mall, which is fantastic. It's really, really good. And then LA Comic Con in December is what I've got planned.
Nice.
As far as San Diego Comic Con, I'm not exhibiting this year, but I will be there all 5 days, so you can probably run into me if you're around.
That's one that maybe someday I'll be able to make it to, but right now
You've never been?
never been. I try to go to New York every year.
Okay. I hear that San Diego is very similar to New York, just times that by 10.
Yeah.
For all the people that tell me, oh, I've never been to San Diego Comic Con, I think, oh my God, you're missing out. But then I think, oh man, all the money you just saved. Lucky you.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, again, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for taking time out of your evening, and best of luck once the Kickstarter kicks off.
Thank you. I really do appreciate you talking with me, and I had fun. And hey, I'm going to be doing another one for Collectors Annual number 8 later in the year, so I'm going to hit you up.
All right. Well, you know where to find me on Facebook, so.
I do. I know
All
where to
right.
stalk you.
Yep. And I'll keep my ear to the ground and see if I can catch when you announce it in time too. So.
Well, I will be plastering the news everywhere.
All right. Well, again, pleasure talking to you, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.